You brought up the Maple Crest Road extension, not necessarily as an issue, but that was one of the things you talked about a little bit. Are there issues that are specific to the first district that maybe you think need to be looked at or explored?
You know, it's the same thing. Almost every election you hear politicians say, we need roads, we need jobs, we need economic development. Well, the roads, there's only so many dollars. So we have to survey the district, find the roads that need resurfaced or replaced. Economic development brings me to the City Utilities Light Lease Fund. I think that for economic development, we need to take the principal amount of that money and put it into a fund reserve. Then take the interest and the yearly payments and help incentives for small businesses. That way, then, with the large fund, if we have an emergency where we need excess dollars in what we have in tax revenue, we don't have to bond. We could use some of that money. As an example, let's say there was a large manufacturer that wanted to relocate in Fort Wayne. We could use some of that money to give them incentives to come and broaden our tax base and also create jobs.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned economic development. This is one of those questions that I try to ask of every candidate. Mm-hmm. What does economic development mean to you?
Well, tax incentives and tax abatements would be perfect. They're utilizing some of that now. The only thing that I disagree with sometimes, it's kind of ironic because I was paying attention more to city council when the smoking ordinance was going on, but I found that there was no concern for economic development when places were closing, but we could give a tax abatement to a doctor on a complex that added one employee. To me, that's not bang for our dollar. We need to create an atmosphere in Fort Wayne that encourages businesses to either grow or new businesses coming in. I think, for one thing, to help economic growth in Fort Wayne needs to advertise more about how low the cost of living is here. I lived in Michigan for 15 years, and my taxes on a house smaller and less square footage than what I have here. The taxes were double. Food's cheaper here, housing's cheaper here. I think we need to advertise that more when we're trying to sell the city.
Sure. You talked a little bit about, at least I think you mentioned about CEDIT funds and things like that. One of the things that this mayor, the current mayor, did when shortly after he took office was he took those CEDIT allocations away from the council persons. Each councilman, gets a certain amount that they can spend in their district, and then the three at large were given an amount as well, and he took that away from them. Do you think that's something that maybe needs to be looked at? Do you think the council should have?
Well, again, back to fairness. My opponent, or the present council person, said that in the paper a week or so ago that even though that money was taken away, he felt it was adequate what they were getting back. I think sometimes maybe we could do a compromise and give the councilmatic districts a smaller amount for projects, and then a large portion to the city government, the mayor's office, to distribute where they feel that it's going to benefit the city as a whole rather than just districts. I know I'm running for a district, but you got to be fair when you're distributing money. There may be an opportunity come up that they need that money to develop something maybe that's not in my district, but may create jobs which would present opportunities for people in my district.
Mm-hmm. Legacy Fort Wayne, the Light Lease Task, not the Light Lease Task, but the Light Lease Trust Fund. What are your ideas? Are we moving too quickly? Should we spend it? Should we save it? What should we do with it?
As I said earlier, I think, excuse me. As I said earlier, I think we need to take the principal amount and not get in a hurry to spend it. Put it in a fund that the mayor could come to city council with a project, as long as it's not one that needs to be kept secretive. If you got a company coming in that wants to locate in Fort Wayne, they don't want the real estate agents to know what they're doing. So, but I think the principal needs to be kept in a reserve fund, and then utilize the yearly payments and the interest off the principal to use for economic development, infrastructure, the new square. There's maybe something to pop up there. But primarily that money should be used for economic development and infrastructure, I believe.
Mm-hmm. One of the other things that this council has done has been to lower the threshold from 100,000 down to 75,000 for the expenditures that a mayor can make without having to have their approval. Do you think that's low enough? Do we need to go lower?
Things come up that you need to do. You can't wait 3 or 4 weeks for city council to approve. I think the mayor should have the right. I think the 75,000 is probably a reasonable threshold for that. I do believe that at present time, city council is made aware of those expenditures, and I would thoroughly want to see that continue. That even though they are not okaying it, they should be made aware of those contracts.
Mm-hmm. How about prior approvals? That's something that's kind of come up here to a head the last couple of weeks. Where do you weigh in on that issue?
Well, I think with the job market the way it is, I think prior approvals should continue. I think that sometimes items are so obvious that they're gonna be it'll be approved in a final. I think that council now on a prior approval, if they have some concerns, they can stop the prior approval just like they did a couple weeks ago. Mm-hmm. So.